Okay, sorry I could not make it to tutoring today, guys, but I hope this video helps you out. This particular lesson, I believe, is the fifth one out of the 21 that we're going to do. And this one is actually fairly easy. It's kind of at the heart of all algebra. It's called Simplifying and Evaluating Expressions. And what they're going to do is Study Island folks are going to give you some problems with some variables. And remember, variables are letters, okay? Letters that stand for a number that we don't know. And we've already talked about how to rearrange all of these equations to where we can get whatever variable they give us, we can get it on one side of the equal sign by itself. We've already talked about how to do that and how to move things around. Now all they're going to do is they're going to give you a scenario like the one you see here. N equals 2, right? N equals 2. If n equals 2, what is the answer to this equation? And they gave us two little deals. You may not recognize those, or you may not remember that you knew those up and down lines. Those are not ones. This is an absolute value. And anytime you're doing absolute value, you need to remember that if it's the absolute value of -3, well, the absolute value means the most value, the positive value of whatever's on the inside of the absolute value sign. So if you got a negative number in there, the absolute value of it is going to be 3. If you have a positive number inside, well, the positive number is already positive. So the absolute value of a positive 3 is 3. I'm not going to go too much into that because that's something we should already know, but you'll see how to use it here. In all of these examples that I'm going to show you, all you have to do is figure out what is the value of the variable that they gave me. If n equals 2, then everywhere that I see n's, I should be able to put the number 2, and then I should be able to solve the problem. So let's see if we can. So I'm going to start out by rewriting it. I'm going to have the absolute value of, instead of n, we're going to have 2 minus 8. Nothing changed with my subtraction sign, so I have the absolute value over here. I have 2 minus, and now where I see the n, I'm going to put a 2, because they told me n equals 2. So 2 minus 8, well, that's going to give me a negative number. So I'm going to have a -6 absolute value minus, and then I'm going to have the absolute value of nothing, which is nothing. So if I have the absolute value of -6, well, the absolute value of a negative number, as I just said, is always a number. So really what I have down here is 6 minus nothing, which is going to give me, obviously, 6. Pretty easy. All I did, I looked at what they gave me. They told me how much the variable equaled this time. Now my little male brain that likes to end up with an actual solid number at the end of the day, I'm happy because I got my 6, I got my answer. I didn't just rearrange things, I actually solved the problem. Pretty easy. Let's look at another one. This one's basically the same thing, but we're going to, instead of using n equal 2, now n equals 3. And I've got a little bit of an extra step on the left side. So let's just go ahead and rewrite it, plugging in our value for our variable. 2 times, well, it was being multiplied by n. Now it's being multiplied by 3. Subtract 8, didn't change anything there. Absolute value of -5, we'll get to that in a second. 2 times 3 is going to be 6 minus 8 minus absolute value of -5. 6 minus 8 is going to give me a -2 absolute value, subtracted by a -5 absolute value. So if I'm going to rewrite this, and I'm going to move up to the top of the page so that you can see it, the absolute value of -2 is +2, because the absolute value of anything is its positive counterpart. I didn't do anything with the subtraction sign in the middle, but now I have the absolute value of -5, which is 5. So even though I ended up with positive numbers, I'm taking 5 away from 2 now. So my answer is still going to be negative. No absolute value there, just a -3. Just plugged in the number that they gave me for all the variables I saw and solved the equation. Easy. Now you look at this one, and people start to freak out. They see f of x. Oh no, what do I do? Nothing different at all. This is just telling you if f of x equals this whole scenario right here, then what is f of 12? Well, all this is telling you is the same thing that they gave you before. It's just written in a little bit of a different expression. Now, anywhere you see the x, you're going to plug in the number 12. So everywhere we see an x, we're going to put in a number 12. So let's rewrite it. We've got, let me clear out some space here real quick. Remember, we're finding f of 12. So anywhere that we see a 12, we're going, or anywhere we see an x, we're going to put in a 12. So to rewrite it, we've got 54 over 12 plus 15 times 12 minus 15. Easy. So over here, we're going to go, 54 didn't change. We're going to have 27 times negative 3. That's going to give us 54 over, and this is a positive 27 and a negative 3. And anytime you're multiplying numbers together where their signs are different, you're always going to come up with a negative answer. So we're going to have negative 81. Now I know that Study Island likes us to put things in simplest form. So does Apex, if you haven't figured that out. So I'm looking at this, and I can tell you right off the bat, you can at least divide 9 into both of those numbers. So if I wanted to reduce it, I'm going to divide both by 9. If you do it to the bottom or the top, you got to do it to the bottom or vice versa. So 54 divided by 9, that's going to give me 6. And that's also going to give me 9. I can tell you right now, we can go even lower than that and divide them both by 3. And I'm going to get 2/3. That's my answer. I didn't do anything different just because now it said f of x instead of x equals. It's the same thing as saying x equals 12. So all I did, I found my variables, plugged in 12, solved the problem. Here's another one. It looks like it'd be more complicated, but it's really not. They've just given me, instead of one variable, now I have 3 variables. A equals 3, B equals 0, C equals 2. Right off the bat, this one should make me excited, if you're a math nerd, I suppose, because anytime you have something multiplied by 0, it's always going to be 0. That's going to help me get rid of some of my gobbledygook that I see right here. So all we do is we just go through the equation and we replace letters with numbers. So I had 7a, I know a is 3, and I know c is 2, minus 7, I know b is 0, plus 2, and I know c is 2. Well, my order of operations says I have to do, my PEMDAS says that I have to do multiplication first. So I'm going to go ahead and do this multiplication. I'm going to have a 21 when I do the 7 and a 3, and a 21 times 2, that'll give me 42. Anytime I multiply anything by 0, I'm going to get nothing. But just for the sake of clarity, I'm going to go ahead and write it out. And then 2 and 2 is 4. So I've got 42 minus nothing, which is 42. And I'm adding 4, 46. Simple. Not too hard. All you're doing is plugging in numbers, which is actually, I think, easier to do than to try to rearrange things with 5 and 6 and 7 variables in them just to isolate one variable. And that's it. This lesson is actually pretty easy. That's a big smiley face. Whenever you're going through your lesson 5 in Study Island, you're probably going to come across some that have exponents. So you're going to need to review your exponents, because it's going to ask for things like equivalent values, and it'll probably tell you something like, what is an equivalent value for 3 with a negative 3 as an exponent? So if you don't remember how to do those exponents with negative numbers, or other scenario you might see is going to be 3 to the 5th times 3 to the 3rd. And they're going to ask you to simplify it. Or they're going to ask you to, what's another way to write that? If you don't remember how to do those, you need to go back and look at your notes over exponents. If you need a good cheat sheet on exponents, all you need to do is Google search law of exponents or laws of exponents, and you should come across in one of the top 5 hits a site called Math is Fun. If you go to that Math is Fun, it'll actually, about halfway down the page, it'll show you a little table, and it has all of the rules of exponents that show you what you do with equations like this with your exponents. Do you actually go 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 and then multiply it by 3 times 3 times 3? Or is there a simpler way? Well, I can tell you right now there's a simpler way. You would actually do something with these exponents that makes the problem a lot more simple to solve. Same with this. There's a way that you rewrite 3 to the negative third power that makes it easier to solve and makes a lot more sense. So go back, look at your rules of exponents. That one you'll probably need to do before you start lesson 5's quiz. But other than that, it's just going to be literally plugging in values and then solving the problem with simple addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division problems. If you have any questions or any concerns, let me know. Again, I am very sorry that I was not able to come. I will be at the Grove Library from 11 to 1 next week, and we'll go over lesson number 6. I have a cheat sheet. Well, no, I have a worksheet for those of you that missed last week over ratios, rates, and proportions. That one is a little difficult until you remember how to set up a ratio and how to set up a proportion and solve it. Once you have that down, that lesson's actually really easy, but I know everybody wasn't there. So if you need extra help on that, let me know. Don't forget, Homework Helper is online. Some of you love it, some of you hate it, but it's there 24/7. So whenever it's not your week for me to come tutor, or it's not a Friday for us to do algebra tutoring, I highly advise you to use that because it's in your best interest and it's there all day, every day. All right, guys, I'll see you all next Friday, unless your tutoring time is between now and then, in which case I'll see you then. All right, bye-bye.